So we have our app up and running in production, and we've made multiple deploys to it. We've scaled it up, we've scaled it down, and now we're kind of in an active development cycle. Well, let's say that there's some experimental feature that we're about to release, and I really just want to make sure that it has more exposure before I'm ready to just push this up into production. So I want to show you how you can actually simulate a deploy or dry run a deploy before it actually goes live. This is one of my favorite features of Nanobox, and what's so cool is that because of Nanobox's portability, we're actually able to fully 100% simulate the production environment on your local desktop. So let's go ahead and see how that looks. So we'll start with our application, and so let's go ahead and change our code here to something experimental, and maybe it doesn't go as well as we think. So to verify this can actually work, go back to our console. And so normally where here we would do a Nanobox deploy, and that would push it straight up to production. In this case, we're going to say deploy-dry run. So dry run deploy will run a full deployment, start to finish, but the difference is it's going to deploy it into a local, fully simulated production emulation. And there's no difference between the environment that is that's running in the dry run and the actual production environment. So you can actually see that here as so this is the first time I've run dry run, and so it's going to have to build the platform, and you can see that it's starting the components. As you can see, we've got a logger that's coming online, a message bus that's coming online, and these will match. So I'm just going to hop over real quick and show you if we pull down the platform components, we'll notice that we have a monitor, we have a load balancer, a warehouse, a message bus, and a logger, and these are all the components that are required for your app to run in production. So if it's required to run your app in production, it's also going to be required to fully emulate your app running locally. So we head back down here, and we can see that we're just about through building all these platform services. Looks like we have one more after the storage component. And directly after the platform components are up, running, verified, functional, then we actually will start a full-fledged deployment process. So we see that here. So we're uploading the runtime that was built, except this time we're uploading it to our dry run environment, not to our production environment. We're starting our web component. This is just following 100% the same process that you would see in production in the heads-up display of the dashboard. And then it runs the app. So the app is running, and all of the logs from the app are actually going to be streamed here. So we can actually visit this. Now what I'm going to do here though is I don't want to actually use the IP address because I'm going to forget that IP address. It's hard to remember. So I'll go ahead and open up a new tab, and I will add a DNS alias. So this time I'm going to add a DNS alias to the dry run, and I'll call this flask dot, let's call this sim, because we're kind of simulating. Okay, so now with that in place, I can go back over to my browser, and I can say not HTTPS, flask.sim. And there we go. We can see, oh, oops, that was not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted at all. And that's where dry run can really help. And you can see here in the logs, because we visited that, and this really simple application is recording requests. all of those logs are going to come through here. So if we hit this a bunch of times, we'll see that um, the logs start coming through here. Okay, so this is simulating this deploy. Now that the deploy is, I've verified, okay, this deploy isn't what I wanted. How do I stop this? Well, you simply kill this process like normal, Control C, and Nanobox is now going to stop the dry run environment. It's not going to remove those components, because if you wanted to dry run again, so let's say here I say that's not what I wanted. Let me go back to where it was, except maybe this time I want to change just one little thing, and then I do the dry run again. It's going to pull up the environment. This time, instead of creating the components, it just fires them right up, runs a full deploy process again, takes the code point, starts our web processes, removes the old one that was there, starts a new one, and we get the output. So I can now go refresh. Hey, that's exactly what I was expecting. Great. And now I am prepared to do a real deploy with Nanobox deploy. So hopefully you've been able to see here how the portability of Nanobox really enables some killer workflows and some really critical functionality. So this is one of my favorite things about Nanobox. It just is so nice to be able to know that you can take any environment, whether this is Windows, whether it's Mac, whether it's Linux, on any of your development environments, or across any of your development team, and they could run a dry run, and it will run the application perfectly emulated to a T exactly, without any differences, as it will run in production. And it certainly just adds a lot of confidence. So thanks for tuning into this. We've got some really cool stuff coming up, so I would encourage you to continue stay tuned. Thanks.